So I think a whole bunch of people now, and maybe I'm wrong, but it was 10 million people on Facebook. It was 25 or so million people that use Twitter daily. So I don't use Twitter daily necessarily. So I wouldn't even fall into that category. But other people, can you imagine? It's probably 50, 60 million people on different social media platforms that are all aware of the 17 movement because it's the 17th today. That's how I'm getting away with this. So a lot of people saw this. A lot of people saw the Rig for Red. I'm going to crop that in. Rig for Red was posted today after a whole bunch of posts about getting rid of anything to do with the name of this poster, of the grouping, of the movement, if you're going to call it that. If you were going to say anything to do with the 17th letter of the alphabet, then you'd get in trouble, and I'm trying to avoid it. But if you say any of the things, you will have an issue. This is trying to highlight and tell you, hey, we're on top of Antifa. We're not turning a blind eye. Be assured. And then this says, while we're arresting these people, and you're seeing it in the news, we don't want to be glorified. Drop anything to do with that letter on your social media so that you don't get banned, so that you can continue to look at this board and others that are reposting it, and then showing those messages without having to get yourself canceled. For better or for worse, that's how I'm going to put it. So, you don't want to get canceled? Don't use the letter. But this is, the 1984 is upon us. Here, Rig for Red. I see this, I go, okay, well, we're being warned. Don't get banned. Keep the fight alive. We have this. The midnight ride is here with delivery of free information. Okay, great. Well, then Rig for Red. That seems like a code. What does that mean? I Google. I say, what's Rig for Red? It brings you to the all the wacky submarine terms you never knew you wanted from the whatever stupid. So here, Rig for Red, Rig for Romantic, or Rig for Johnny Mathis. That one's apparently too old, they say. It says turn the control center lights to red because what you're doing is preparing to go to what PD, they say. I don't want to know PD. This means periscope depth. Okay, so you're the control center is normally dim, and red lights, if you didn't know, this is the same reason why film is developed in a red room, is because red lighting doesn't disturb the rods and cones in your eyes nearly as much as other wavelengths of light. It's the longest wavelength of light, if I recall. So it doesn't damage the film, it doesn't expose film, it doesn't ruin your eyes. So you can see in darkness, and if you flip a red lamp or a red light on, it doesn't ruin your ability to flip that light back off and still see in the dark. Versus if you were seeing in the dark with the controls all off, then you flip a light on, or as they say, you light a cigarette or do anything else, as they had used to smoke in the Navy in a submarine, if you can believe that. They light a cigarette, everyone's blinded because it was pitch black, and now all they see is a lighter. And now they go back to trying to read their controls or seeing things, and they're blind. Rig for Red. Rig for Red. Set your controls so that you can still see. We're going to PD. PD being periscope depth. So then you say, okay, well, what is periscope depth? Well, they're going to tell you it's 20 meters, but really what I'm asking is what does that mean? What is periscope depth? That is, what's the tactical advantage do you get from going to periscope depth? This is, whilst there are tactical advantages, particularly remaining covert, you can periodically then, there are tactical advantages to operating in the deep, but there are advantages to returning to periscope depth, which is just under the surface so that you can pop up and see. Now it at least makes sense as I'm saying it. Basically, you're under the water as a covert. We're literally talking about stupid metaphors for the deep state and how we're operating in fighting them. And if we're talking about how a submarine comes up to periscope depth, They rig for red, so that's a code to the operators, right? Saying rig for red because we're coming to, not yet to the surface, but close to it, so that we can see. And hopefully that'll be reassuring enough. So that is what the rig for red was. And I thought that was interesting because this is what it's from. The wacky submarine terms you never knew you wanted to know. They don't call it a silent service for nothing. The U.S. Navy and the Navy submarine operations may be shadowy, but it's full of rich culture, honed over years of stuffing busloads of sailors into steel tubes for months on end. Out of this unique environment, some colorful terminology has sprung, and so they had a submariner, in to discuss all the different language that they would use, and then here it is, and they go through it. And, you know, if you ever toured a submarine, they're pretty compact. It's not somewhere that you want to be if you have any kind of claustrophobia or if you have any kind of personal space issues. If you're kind of one of those guys who's like, I have my bugaboos about my things, I don't want my stuff messed with, don't go into this because you don't have stuff. It is like a shared space, everything. You get a cup, you get a coffee mug, and you don't wash it out. So then you get all the way down to all these different stupid little dumb, like, okay, we got this, we got that, but then, hey, rig for red, rig for red, rig for romantic. It says, red lighting makes it easier for your eyes to adjust to darkness when you rigged for black prior to heading up. So first you rig for black, so that means you're totally owl eyes. You're taking any light you can get because there's none in the room so that you can see, like a cat. And then you're going to rig for red, so you flip the red lights on because you're adjusting to, as you go up, to periscope depth. And again, that is significant because periscope depth, that is important when we talk about not just the fact that a ship comes up to just under the surface of the water, but if you're talking about this movement in particular and the people that are involved and the players that are involved and what they were referring to right before they say rig for red, when they're talking about the people needing to get rid of that moniker, get rid of that label on social media because you'll be algorithmed out. So in other words, camouflage isn't enough. You need to get rid of that and just go spread the word. And then the movement itself, rig for red. Again, this may just be anything in all caps may be for a specific group that we don't know. It's a code, and that's what it means. It means we're going up to periscope depth just under the surface where we can now be more visible and now we can see more. So that's that. Let me know what you think in the comments of what rig for red means. I'm interested. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure the notification bell is on, and then do everything else that you can do to keep America afloat.